What I'll try to do at the end here really quickly is connect a lot of the things that we've heard. And what I do is teach Anishinaabemowin. Actually, we both do at the University of Milwaukee. We're really honored to have the Kinomageokima right here, the captain of the research vessel the Nishike, at our school, which for us was such a wonderful thing. When I first was trying to be talked into coming to Milwaukee, I had the luxury of taking my daughter onto this wonderful research vessel. And what she remembered the most was that it was named for a word that we recognized. People could argue whether it means auntie or whether it just means, hey, look, you know, but the Nishike, that she understood that place that I was going to teach was a place where our language was accepted, that our language was used. And so then as we traveled around, we actually started talking about what is, you know, Milwaukee. So I got to do this one, right? Okay. So what I wanted to do was tell some of the stories of place in the Great Lakes and some of the things about the language, and it really gets at the question that the gentleman in the back in the center had. There's a group, you can go to AnishinaabemowinTech.org or Ojibwe.net. We have been for many decades now trying to revitalize our language after a period of boarding schools that really worked to do the reverse. So we have a language that over 220 nations in the Great Lakes Basin, and the way that they map onto that is amazingly similar. So it's pretty much in and around the Great Lakes. We use the one term chigaming. We don't actually use those separate proper nouns for Superior, Huron, Erie. We just say chigaming, and we mean that whole thing. You can find primary documents that go back quite a ways, and somebody standing in one place will say, yes, this is chigaming. You go to another place farther west, they're still saying this is chigaming. So that sense that this great sea, this one connected place of water is where we are, is what's really important. So just to tell two stories and then show you a few examples of language, we have stories that I think often I'm doing almost the opposite, the perfect blend of what Nancy does, which is great because we both love sturgeons. And I've read her stuff about sturgeons, and when I teach Great Lakes history, I will often try to bring the science into the language classroom, into the Anishinaabe culture, so that what we're saying is people expect sort of American Indian stories to be sort of ceremonial, to be a little religious, to have a lot of ethnic background and artifacts and things. They don't expect us to have a lot of science. And so we're often trying to do that, to understand the way that our people have for so long thought about science. So here's two examples. Really quickly, and I think what I'll do is try to sort of reverse it and then make you guys sing this one with me at the end, right? Because I think you all should. So this one, it says, Nibi Gizavia Go, and that's one of those, the most complex type of verb that we have, the fourth type, which shows that you're singing to the water. You think of that water as someone that you love, as someone, like Mike explained, that opens up to you, and it's a reciprocal relationship. The miigwechwigo, it's that kind of thanks that includes the other part of the equation. And gajawanamigo, that same thing with the blessing. So this song for the water is not thanks for this resource I can use, but it's literally speaking to the water and understanding that as a relationship. And that's a song that many women all around the Great Lakes, I could probably go anywhere around the Great Lakes, and women, definitely the women my age, will all know that song. And they'll kind of ask each other, that's how they'll recognize each other sometimes. Do you know that song? Have you heard that? You know, they'll know this one. We have a group of grandmothers that have literally walked around the Great Lakes. Doreen Day, Josephine Mandaman, you know, Daisy Costas. They've done this, and they've cared for the water in that way. Then I've been working at the, we have over 1,000 students in the Milwaukee public school system that are Native students. So these are Native students that are growing up in Minnewaking, the good water, in places surrounded by our language, Wisconsin, Ozaki, Mequon. The names that, the way our language rings through the place that we live is amazing. The thing that is always kind of a little heart-stopping for me is that most people don't know what those things mean. They all think it means it's good here, which was great when we first moved there. The realtor told us real proudly, oh, these are Indian names. You know, Mequon, Ozaki, all these places. It means it's good here, it's good water. And they repeatedly told us that all these Indian words meant good water. They don't all mean good water, but it was really interesting that people in Wisconsin had this sense that the Indian words meant good water. So I thought, you know, this is this is a thing that you can take farther and build on. This is Neali and Wase. They attend the Indian Community School in Milwaukee, and Wase is Ojibwe and Neali is Oneida, and they both have learned their language. And I came to like study with them in the afternoon sometimes, and there was a day where it was raining, and one of them said, you know, we learned that song, rain, rain, go away, but it's Zigwan. Isn't it supposed to be a good thing that it's spring? And it is. I mean, Zigwan, our word for spring, relates to the word for to pour. And they had a sense, despite that they were kids in Milwaukee that were, you know, surrounded by city, they had a sense that you should be happy for the rain. That telling it to go away and complaining about it was not good. So we thought about how could we use the language to talk about the water. And they came up with this little song, which is in both languages. It's Omwe ni Logana lo, Logana le si, Yolana le, Onekanus, Anishinaabemowin, Gimme one, Gimme one, and they just had so much fun singing it, and they thought, well, let's go outside and sing it. And they were, the little one, that was another thing, where she said, can I really use the language outside the Oneida classroom? And I said, yeah, you should, and everyone else should too, you know. So that's something that we're trying to do. When we are able to elevate our language to the equivalent level, I have some colleagues, I think I now have 4 colleagues who are tenured who also study and speak the same language. That's it. And we are teaching at institutions that believe this language is connected. And when we can teach this language to the fullest extent, I believe we send people out into sustainability programs, into freshwater programs, into all different fields with more knowledge of the place, with more knowledge of the water. So if they go into forestry, they start thinking about the land differently. I maybe won't take time to read all of these to you now, but you can see that when you think about what is the forest, what is this place, you have to think hard about what's there and what's happening there. Not just what sort of trees, what sort of things might be there. In English, we tend to name our forests for the type of tree, the type of resource that it has growing there. Here, is it a place where you're tracking? Is it a place that needs to be maintained and burnt? Is it a low place, a shady place, a place you pass through? So there's a lot of ways to talk about where you are when you're having that relationship being in the forest. Also thinking about oceanography or limnology, I was involved with a camp in the past where we took native kids to our biostation and we learned photosynthesis and water analysis, and we learned scientific concepts that were going to be the very same concepts they were supposed to learn the next year in their science class. And we talked about them in the language, which was just like little light bulbs turning on in their head. They didn't realize, some of them, especially urban native kids, that their language could be so descriptive, so powerful, and that the scientists would have as much fun learning different ways to think about the place. So it was, whenever you can bring the language and the knowledge of the place, the way of describing it, into that conversation, I think you can do something very different. Again, some of these are ones that Mike had mentioned, but you have to be so aware of what's happening. As a verb-based language, it's the action, the relationship of the speaker to the place, much more than the resources or things that are around. Even as we started working with some gardens, and we're working with the Audubon Garden and the Urban Ecology Center in Milwaukee now, and the Mequon Nature Center, to sort of name the places around you. So how do you know when you're moving from a place that is the beach and the sand and into a place that's marshy or to a bog or to a forest? You have to think of how much water is there. So you really have to think about that relationship of the water. And then this is the one where I had once used, I think it was one of Nancy's papers from a while ago, talking about the sturgeon. And we said, well, what can happen if, for instance, I just go and do a 15-minute preface in a biology class where none of them have thought about sturgeon or fisheries from an indigenous perspective. And we might start with the monmek or the namek that we use for the sturgeon. And where we would start is that this was a clan. We would even, like the monmek, that name, we were sort of having conversations. You can go back and forth on what these names mean. One thing that you hear in that word is nome, to be underneath, where we all know, like when you say they're going to go underneath and they're going to stay, I think they will. They're the ones that are underneath, but they're also the ones that are different, that are maybe dangerous. We have many, many words that start with the same part of that word when you talk morphology. And they sometimes mean ugly, they mean evil, they mean dangerous. But that's sort of the power that's there. You can have the zage, like the opening in the lake, but you also have to have the zega, the being afraid too. You have to have that balance. I think sometimes in terms of our commons work, we work to have people fall in love with the lake, but I would say also be afraid. Not just for the lake, but of the lake, of the system, of the power. We have stories that have amazing, beautiful things that come from the lake, but also some pretty crazy things. When my friend Guy Meadows studies riptides, we think of stories of the Mishapishu, the great water panther that was under there, and those stories taught people to fear the lake and to understand the power and the presence of the lake as well. So when we start studying the sturgeon, if I want to take students to a river and say, what do we need to do to keep these sturgeon alive? We start by recognizing that for some of our relatives, that sturgeon is their clan animal, is their representation, is something that unites their family, symbolizes who they are, protects memories. And then we think about how they move. Where did they live? The way our people used to live. We traveled from places seasonally. We had a cycle of moving through things. And so where does a sturgeon need to be? In the deep water, in the shallow water, in the place that has rocks and spaces. And then they go into the waterways. So we need to think of all those perturbations and things that we might find there. You know, at the end, I was just saying, that we need to have respect. This word for us means to care for something or someone, really, to care for someone that is potentially able to care for us, and to recognize that in caring for them, we are also kind of caring for ourselves. Now, if I can go back, I think you guys really should all sing that song. Ready? Okay? So really, you should. So, yeah, and the other thing is, like, I always think in circles constantly, you know, because you were all born in a circle, and we have, so an ode is a drum, it's also, ode is your heart, ode wagon. And so you were all at one time balled up in a little circle with nothing but that cycle of blood and circulation between your mother and yourself. And so there were lots of circles. We just have to, you know, look for your belly button if you're in need of a circle. So some people sing this with drums, some people don't. I think sometimes when we do it in a group, it's easier for people to kind of stay in time. So to just go through these. So nibi is water. So try saying this, right? So nibi. Nibi. Gizagego. Gizagego. Gmigwach winamigo. And then G-Zhao Wenamigo. And we always sing things in fours. So some of you should chime in, but if nobody does the first time, I'll understand. You have 3 more chances, right? So as everyone was showing these compasses, these circles, here we have 4 seasons to remind us of that. We're always thinking we stand in the center of a place and there are multiple directions, ways that you can look out, and we often sing things in 4 for that reason. So I'll sing it through once and then you'll catch it, and I know you guys will chime in, right? So you made it through, and it sounded beautiful, and I think probably the water heard us, right? So I'll stick to my time limits there for sure. But you can find, like when you go back, I mean, all of you guys teach something, whether you're teaching in a school setting now, or you just have people that you have to go home and they say, what did you do there, you know? So if you want to sing these songs again to anyone on this website, ojibwe.net, you can find the songs, and these are under, this one's under women's traditional songs, this one's under children's songs. If you really are interested in who teaches in and around the Great Lakes area, I think we know of every single person. About 700 of them show up annually at a conference called Anishinaabemowin, which is in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It sort of moves back between the Sioux, Canada, and Michigan. And you can always find, where is somebody teaching the language closest to me? It may not be at your four-year institution yet, but you're all going to go ask for that, right? So, so I don't know if you have questions.